Well, hey, man.
This is officially the hometown holler North Carolina gubernatorial triple crown.
Oh,
That's what this is today.
oh yeah?
So
Oh,
last year,
great.
yeah, it is because last year we had current governor.
Uh-huh.
A few weeks ago we had former governor, and now we have Pat McCrory, who is the penultimate former governor. I don't know exactly what the term would be, but this is a huge day for us.
Yeah, it's actually really cool. Who would have thought we'd have had three governors on?
No, and I will say, out of all the governors we've interviewed, Pat, you are the most tolerant. For folks who are just tuning in and didn't hear the 30 minutes that preceded this conversation, Pat exhibited incredible forbearance and helping us navigate the travails of 21st century video, virtual remote recording. So,
Well,
Governor,
you were dealing with an almost 70-year-old now who's trying to deal with technology. So, the good news is for I think your audience to know is that all the governors often speak together. In fact, we all met recently at Governor Hunt's funeral,
mm,
and Governor Stein was very nice enough to take me and Jim Martin from the Concord Airport to Wilson, North Carolina, which was a very nice gesture on Governor Stein's part. And Governor Martin and I talk all the time, and Governor Easley and I, and Purdue and I talk all the time, and we share stories, and we also have helped previous governors with some lawsuits against the North Carolina legislature. So I think
Wow.
it's a good sign for North Carolina that all the governors in a bipartisan way communicate and talk with each other and are actually somewhat friends. And we all got together for Governor Hunt's funeral, which I think was a good sign of unity for our state.
yeah, absolutely. I'm really heartened to hear that. I wondered about that. I mean, we have several members of the Governors Club in North Carolina, and I wondered just what the intramural dynamics were
Mm.
between y'all. It sounds like there's healthy camaraderie.
Now we're all part of a unique fraternity or sorority, whatever. Governor Purdue in there, and we've been tough. I lost to both Governor Purdue and to Governor Cooper.
Hmm.
Kicked my butts, both of them. I mean, one by only 10,000 votes, but that you move on,
Sure.
and I think it's a signal to the state, and this is the way the nation should be too. But me and Easley, for example, talk all the time, and I'm Jim Martin's Uber driver now across the state.
You
So,
got a nice
Jim,
fluorescent Uber in your car?
well, in fact, not too long ago, I took Jim to Governor. I must say, Governor Stein has been extremely nice in bringing us together. We did not have that, frankly, during Governor Cooper's administration. I was never invited back to the mansion in eight
Hmm.
years, but Governor Stein's already had me over three times.
Wow.
Wow.
And that's just a very nice gesture on his part. But the first time I drove Governor Martin there and actually met him in a Food Line parking lot in Mooresville.
What is more North Carolina than that?
I
Not
know.
much.
Well, the story is, by the way, when he got in the car, I noticed he was bleeding all over his
What?
shirt. His shirt was full of blood, and I'm not telling you something no one knew. And actually, this was a trip to Salisbury to do Elizabeth Dole event, but he was full of blood. And I'm going, what happened? He looked, he didn't realize he was bleeding. He had hit his elbow
Oh Lord.
previously while getting a drink at a curb market, and he didn't know it. So I'm going, I got to take you to the hospital. He just turned 90,
Oh,
and
Hmm.
I got to take you to the hospital. And he went, no, no, we're going to this event. We're going. You're driving
It's
me
just
to
a
this
flesh
event.
wound.
And I said, yes, sir, Mr. Governor. And so I said, well, let me go get us some supplies. So I went into the food line and got all these bandages and wraps. And
did you
here
get a
I am in
Tide
the
pin?
I got everything, man. But it would have been a great picture of me bandaging two governors bandage each other in Food Lion parking lot at 9 o'clock in the morning in Mooresville, North Carolina. But Governor Jim Martin is one of this genuine smartest governor we've ever had in the state of North Carolina. I mean, he's just a brilliant guy. So it was an honor for me. And when I took him, we got there about half hour early to go into the mansion. So Jim went, why don't we go see the state capitol and go by the old office? And I said, well, Jim, um, no one's going to know us. He said, hell yeah, they'll know us. And I said, no, Jim, I've been gone 10 years. You've been gone 30 or 40 years for all I know. And he said, park right here at the circle, goes right, you know.
Sure.
I said, yeah, I don't want to get towed, Jim. He said, no, they aren't going to tow us. So I go ahead and park my little,
It's funny that a governor's still worrying about being towed.
oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Yeah. It shows how quick you're either in the ropes or out of the ropes, buddy.
Right.
There's no in between. So we go in, and the minute we walk in, the security stops us to go, excuse me, gentlemen, what is your business here? And we need your keys and wallets and everything. And they didn't know who the hell either one of us was.
Oh,
So
that's
you're
hilarious.
quickly forgotten in this game. So
Oh man. Well, you're certainly not forgotten here at the Hometown Holler. We're
no
so
problem.
grateful to have you sharing your time with us to chat. And I also, at the top of the episode, folks, I want to give a special thanks. Quinn and I want to extend gratitude to a real close friend of the Holler, Jacob Brooks, for helping to facilitate this
Rock star,
conversation.
man.
Yeah, just like salt of the earth, dude, for
Hmm.
making this happen and bringing us together. And I really think, I really think this conversation has potential to be something that is exactly not just what we need as North Carolinians, but the kind of conversation we need to be having more as Americans
Yeah,
in this moment.
I think that it kind of hints on what you were talking about earlier, Governor, that we need it to happen more nationally, this type of fraternity stuff. And so let's just, jump into this. 2016 rolls around. Donald Trump gets elected. Um, and I want you to think about
And I
what you,
don't get elected. Excuse me.
Yeah,
That's
that's
the
and
election I lost.
and you don't get elected, right? And
Yeah.
so 2016 is here, and I'm sure your mind is swirling by like, why didn't I get elected? Donald Trump wins North Carolina. What was your reaction to Trump getting elected in 2016? Because we know things have kind of changed with your attitude towards the Trump administration. But in 2016, what did you think? Did you feel like
Well,
this was a turning
the
point of?
night the night before the election, Trump came to Raleigh and did a rally in one of the arenas there. I can't remember, on the NC State campus, the old
mm.
arena that has the,
Oh, the Dorton Arena.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So he
Terrible
packed the
seats.
place, and I did the arena thing with him and introduced him, and I frankly thought, I knew me and Cooper were at 48, 48 or 49, 49. I knew it was tight. I'd
Mm.
caught up in the last 3 weeks. And I frankly thought we were going to win. And that was the last thing I was going to see of Trump and his team of who was the guy in the military outfit that kind of worked with Trump? Bannon, Steve Bannon. Bannon was there and all this stuff. And, it worked out the opposite. I lost by 10,000 votes out of 4.6 million to Roy. And it was pretty brutal. It was pretty brutal because
Sure.
they announced me the winner on election night um, at 10:45 nationally and locally, and then some votes came in from Durham that were supposed to come in at 7:30, and 100,000 votes flipped, and that's life. So it took 2 months or a month of recount, and that's life. You move on.
Let's back up. Let's rewind even a little bit further. Earlier that summer, that was a really crowded field for the Republican Party. I mean, it really was. At a certain
Yeah.
point, you had a buffet of candidates, and really any voter could have picked their favorite flavor. And then Trump becomes the front runner, becomes the nominee. What was your private reaction when Trump won the nomination in 2016?
Um, when he won, I wasn't surprised, but when he got in, I didn't think there was a chance in hell.
Right.
Hmm.
And you got to remember, I knew Chris Christie was a very close friend. Nikki Haley was a very close friend. We all served together as governors. We were kind of all on the Republican Governors Association, so they were all very close friends. And there were several other Republican governors. Pence was a very close friend. And then when Pence got selected as VP, that was a big surprise. In fact, Pence was probably going to lose governor of Indiana. He got caught up in the Religious Freedom Act. So his polls were way down. The Human Rights campaign had focused on Indiana, and their goal was to defeat Mike Pence. The problem I had is in that July of that year, when he was nominated by Trump, the HRC came to North Carolina, and that's where the whole locker room debate started. It's because the HRC, a very left-wing group, brought that debate to Charlotte, passed a more left wing requiring everything to be open to two genders or three or four genders. The point I'm making, had Pence not been selected as VP, the HRC probably wouldn't have come to North Carolina. Most people
Mm,
realize that issue didn't come to North Carolina till July or August of 2016. So all of a sudden, we had all these protests coming on an issue that we had never discussed in North Carolina up until the Charlotte City Council.
mm.
The Democrats in the city council brought it. So that whole dynamic changed my campaign in many ways. And most people don't realize what was happening. The national impact had an impact on North Carolina later on because of all this money that came in from the HRC
sure.
and paid protesters and so forth.
Well, I
So it
mean,
was a real
I,
unique dynamic.
I would argue though that like that kind of fell in to North Carolina being that hotbed because of, things that had happened earlier in North Carolina with the HB2, right? This just
No,
came
that
in.
was the HB2 didn't exist until then. That was HB2 didn't come up until a
Are you
month or
thinking of
two
Amendment
before the
1?
election.
Amendment 1, that's
Yeah,
right.
that
Oh, maybe
there's
Amendment 1. Yeah, but not HB2, which is really just a number of a bill.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a whole history there, which was interesting.
Sure.
A lot of money came to North Carolina, and that
No,
came from a national perspective, and which it was very interesting. And now, of course, 10 years later, the whole dynamics of that issue have changed 10 years later.
hasn't it?
Now the Democrats don't want to bring it up, and Roy Cooper, running for Senate, does not want to talk about it
mm,
because surveys have flipped on that issue. So you never
yeah.
know in politics.
No, that's you're absolutely right. When I'm, going back to kind of your reaction to Trump's nomination, it sounds like you were surprised.
No, I was surprised at his nomination.
It is nomination.
I
Yeah,
was
it
not
is.
surprised by his victory
Right.
because you had two. I mean, one of the Democrats' greatest weaknesses during the last several elections is they've had very weak top of the ticket candidates. I
Right.
mean, Hillary had all the baggage of the Clintons for years, so
Hmm.
she wasn't a new face. Although when you look back at it, I knew Barack Obama fairly well. I mean, he was president when I was governor and so
Hmm.
forth. Um, he was the strongest candidate they've ever had.
Hmm.
But he knew at that time that Biden wasn't a good candidate. And
Right.
that's why he went with Hillary. And there's stories there. I knew for a fact the Obamas didn't think Biden was ready to be president or wouldn't be. And
This
that
surprise.
came back to haunt him later.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. I was just thinking, this sense of surprise at the nomination, was that a, oh good, I wasn't expecting this, but now we've got the guy who's riding this wave of populism. He's capturing this moment. We're
Yeah.
gonna win. Or was it like an oh shit surprise? Like
Mm,
the cat's out of the bag. This is, a force that can't be.
It wasn't
Yeah.
really the issues, it was the style,
Okay.
fair.
which was so different than me.
Hmm.
I'm not a name calling type of guy.
So I've been to a Trump rally, and I will say it is hard to imagine Pat McCrory on the stump beside Donald Trump. I mean, that
I
just
did it a few times,
it
and it
seems like
was
Coca-Cola and milk.
yeah. It's just not my style. I like to have fun.
Sure.
I'm good on the campaign trail. I'm a retail politician, but I'm not into name calling and things of that nature. He and I are two different stories, but I understood his appeal because I saw it firsthand. And his appeal was this: that at that time the Democrats were calling non-college educated people um, names and looking down at them,
Deplorable.
deplorables.
Yep.
And the non-educated people, they so-called non-educated, are the ones that can fix your cars, and the people who graduate from Duke and Carolina don't even know where the engine is.
Joe the plumber.
Yeah, and he appealed to them. Isn't that ironic? In fact, in our history, three very wealthy men appealed to the blue-collar worker: Roosevelt, Franklin,
Hmm.
John F. Kennedy, and Donald Trump. I just find that rather interesting. Three very wealthy people appealed to the blue collar worker,
Hmm.
where the people who attempt to be the blue collar worker never appealed to him.
Mm, yeah. I mean, I think the
So I
argument with
saw the appeal. I saw the appeal,
Hmm.
and part of it was very impressive. But the other part, I never felt comfortable with, especially calling John McCain names and
Yeah.
things of that nature. I just didn't get it.
so in 23, I think, was it 23 or 24 when you started when you chaired the no labels?
Hmm.
Um, we had already went through one Trump presidency. We
Hmm.
saw another campaign of 2020 in that election. It kind of signified to folks that like you were upset with the way the Republican Party or the national GOP was heading. Um, can you talk to us a little bit about how you started changing? Because you're still a registered Republican, am I correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. It wasn't just the GOP; it was all of government and the
Okay.
Democratic Party. People always think it was just the GOP. No, it was both. And I just thought I'm a Republican. I'm a conservative in both business and in politics who believes in competition. And I didn't like this monopoly or duopoly that the two parties had. They set the ground rules. They dominate the media coverage. They gerrymander to protect their incumbents and their money and power. And this is true in the state and in our local governments too, I might add. And when we did surveys, we saw 65% of the people didn't want either Biden or Trump. And yet that's who the two parties selected. So I felt, just for the sake of the competition and being a part of a problem solving caucus, I thought no one was talking to problem solving. I joined Joe Lieberman and Ben Chavis from North Carolina civil rights leader to say there deserves to be another choice for the American people to be involved at minimum the dialogue and maximum maybe to win. And so people would ask me, how did you join Ben Chavis? And Ben Chavis caught a lot of heat, probably more heat. How did you join that radical right winger, Pat McCrory? And we have become very close friends. And me and Ben and Joe found out we agree on 80% of the issues, by the way, including the issue of two genders. We
Mm.
all agreed on that, which was already beginning to go, yeah, that makes sense.
Hmm.
Which shocked me that they would agree with that. But no labels was an effort to bring more competition and have discussions about how we're going to solve our problems, including the deficit, which no one is talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's a giant deficit, right?
Oh, it's in the tree. No one knows what it is. And by the way, that's true in North Carolina too. I mean, we have unfunded, all the governors say, I brought a balanced budget.
I mean,
It's a
there's
little
the yeah
BS. It's a
the
little
fiscal
BS.
cliff, right?
Well, they're unfunded liabilities. The state pension plan and the state healthcare plan is underwater. And we prop it up every year with about 19 to 20% of the budget. I talked about it when I was governor, but you haven't heard it since. I left the governor's office. Falwell, the former treasurer, was the only politician who had the courage to talk about the unfunded liabilities of our state pension program in the billions of dollars.
And so I want to kind of pivot a little bit, going back to what you said a little earlier. On election night, you lost by 10,000 votes at the end. Well, you were declared winner on election night, and then more votes came in.
Yeah, and then later on that night, around 11 something,
Mhm.
I lost by 5,000
you-
votes. Yeah,
and
not that I remember.
not that you remember out of the 4.6 million.
Let me
Um,
slip my wrist while you're
yeah.
talking to me.
um, but for me, and I'm going to speak candid here, right? So, you're governor and stuff. I'm a registered Democrat, and it was just like, man, what is, wasn't a super fan. Um, but then I saw you just recently with the Jefferson Griffin saga, and you came out and you did a face to camera,
Mhm.
and
You gave your spin.
you did. You said common sense. Like it, and you even said it earlier about your election. It's life and you move on, you keep going. And I in that moment was like, man, Pat McCrory, like I that gained a ton of respect from me.
Well, hopefully, I spoke that way as mayor and as governor, but the media wouldn't always cover my common sense approach.
Fair.
I thought, frankly, the debate that the media was infatuated with regarding two genders, which
Hmm.
locker room do they go in? I thought that was common sense. And today it is common sense to 90% of the people. So I always thought it was common sense, but the attacks were from the left at that time, the same extreme attacks I'm often seeing from the Trump people on other issues, which is I hate attacks, which they're personal attacks, physical and verbal threats, which I got a lot of when I was governor.
Sure.
I had a very tough time with security as governor
Mm.
during my last year in office, and I hate to see that for anybody, regardless of what side of the aisle you're in.
That's right. That I agree there. We might disagree about I
Yeah.
don't think a gender ideology is necessarily black
No,
and
but
white,
no, whether
but
you agree with me on that or not, I wanted a conversation about it. If you
right,
disagree with
sure.
me, I'm fine. If you and I disagree on that issue, I'm not going to call you a name.
Hmm.
Fair, and I agree with
Yeah.
that. And so that's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to get to is with this when you came out and spoke about the Griffin saga and
Yeah.
Allison Riggs, what ran through your mind? Because you have already been out of the scene 8 years. Um, what made you decide to speak up?
Well, that wasn't the first time I spoke up. Actually, that's when me and the other governors spoke up together, not only on that issue, but on the legislature taking away more executive power here in the state of North Carolina.
Mm,
In fact, you might not realize this, but when I was governor, I sued Phil Berger and Tom Tillis as they tried to take away my power. My own party was taking away the power of the governorship, as the Democrats did to Jim Martin, as the
mm,
Democrats did to Jim Gardner, Lieutenant Governor, under Bass Knight and all them. So we've been in this constant power struggle, and I'm a firm believer in separation of powers,
mm.
and not only at the federal level but in the state level. And that's one reason I spoke up for about the Griffin matter. And by the way, he was one of my appointees. He's an
Hmm.
excellent judge. Excellent.
I mean, you also presumably voted for him.
I appointed him
Hmm.
as governor. He's a super. He'd be a great Supreme Court justice, but you have to win. You have to earn it, just like I had to do, one way or the other, in 7 mayoral elections and 3 gubernatorial elections.
Mm.
We got to follow the rules, and if it doesn't go your way, see, the dilemma is if one side does it one way, it's going to catch up with you. And we've seen that in North Carolina history, where the Democrats were taking away power. Then when the Republicans got in power, they said, "Oh hell, payback's going to be, it's going to be payback." And ever since, Phil Berger's been doing that.
Mm. Which
Because
he's got a crazy
Roy
resume.
Cooper was, by the way, one of the ones who took away power when he was a
Sure.
state senator and gerrymandered the hell out of North Carolina. But then when he
Mm.
no, he did. Believe me, he was on the committee as state senator. With all due respect, I mean this. I'll call balls and strikes now. I don't care. So
So, yeah.
uh,
So one
I'm
question I
not
have.
wearing a jersey right now.
No, and I very much appreciate that. I guess the question I have is somebody who is kind of on the outside looking in. Like I follow politics. I'm very interested in North Carolina politics. I'd like to think of myself as somebody who calls balls and strikes and is able to, first take the plank out of my eye before I critique the sawdust in my neighbor's eye. I don't think I achieve that on most days.
Analogy.
I mean, that's scripture. But I one of the things I'm concerned about right now, and the Jefferson Griffin case kind of plays into this, is like I think I totally agree with you that there are tremendous issues with the political duopoly right now. I think I agree with most Americans who are expressing dissatisfaction with Democrats and Republicans, but I don't see it as equivalent forms of dissatisfaction. I
Oh
see
well,
it, yeah,
let me
yeah,
interrupt you real
please,
quick.
please. Hmm.
You brought up no labels.
Yeah.
The Democrats controlled the election board when no labels was trying to get on the ballot. We got all the signatures and more than. They delayed us for 3 months. We had to spend another
Mm.
6 figures of lawyers to get them to change their mind. They played as hardball as they could, the
Hmm.
Democrats. It didn't make the newspaper, News and
Hmm.
Observer, or WREL. They don't do that. They're more left. But believe me,
Mm.
the Tony Rands of the world
Hmm.
played, when he was alive, played the hardest ball of damn politics you ever seen, as hardball as Phil Berger. I hated both.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll call out both.
I didn't know that about the no labels and the Democrats. I mean, that's wrong. Like I
It
would
would make
absolutely.
we tried to get. I mean, I had to hire Bob Orr, who's now not
Right.
either, to go
Yeah.
testify in front of them, and they said no to him. Now
Mm,
they knew they were about to lose the lawsuit. They knew they were wrong, but it was about holding on to power. And at that
hmm
time, the Democrats thought no labels would hurt the Democrats. They were probably wrong there,
hmm
but so they were using their power to stop no labels from getting on the ballot. And you know,
You think that would have hurt the not hurt the Democrats as much? Because I mean, the argument, right, is a and I'm curious if the Republican Party feels the same way, like with a third party coming in. That's why they both want to control. Like we have a
well, it
local.
depends what third party. The Republicans will bend the rules for the Green Party because the Party hurts the Democrats because it takes votes. It's liberals
Right.
taking away votes from liberals. The Libertarian Party hurts the Republicans now.
Mm,
Libertarian Party, when I lost my reelection, got 150,000 votes. I
hmm
lost by 6,000.
hmm
So we pick and choose the ones that we try to stop. It has nothing to do with philosophy. It
hmm
has to do with sheer trying to hold on to your power. So, and at that time, the Democrats with no labels was trying to get on the ballot. The Democrats thought it might hurt Biden more. Neither party really knew, but it shouldn't be even in the
Right. It
calculation. Your
shouldn't. Right.
job is to
Absolutely.
follow the law.
So I guess my
You
question
know,
is like I agree with you. There's rot on both sides in both houses, but in my opinion, the much greater concern, the thing that keeps me up at night, is that one of the parties is led by a guy who believes he won an election that he lost in 2020, right? The January 6th, the big lie.
yeah.
That's something that really concerns me. Not so much that he believes it, but that millions of people believe it with him. And
that leads to a Jefferson Griffin case.
yeah, I mean,
And I'll just call balls and strikes.
mhm.
I'll call him out. He lost.
But so my question is, do you think that there is within the Republican Party, because Trump will not last forever, one way or another, there will be
Mhm.
a future that does not include him. Is there a baby in the bathwater that can be preserved from the Republican Party? Is the party tainted with Trumpism, and there's got to be some kind of apotheosis event where it burns, and from the ashes springs a phoenix of new conservatism. Like what do you see going forward? Because when I look at it, I don't see a lot to be excited about or hopeful for, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
I don't know,
Hmm
but history tells us we move on from individual personalities, from Teddy Roosevelt to Abe Lincoln to you name it. We move on. I'm a firm believer. I'm a very idealistic person. I believe our Constitution is stronger than any individual or any political party. In fact, George Washington warned us about political parties in his concluding speech.
Hmm
He recommended we don't have political parties. We do have political parties. Um, but the dilemma is they've set the rules for themselves, not only in how we vote, but they also set the rules in how we run Congress. You know, if you want to run
mm
as an independent, you're going to be on the sidelines. You're going to be with no power. So people, well, I'm not going to vote for that guy on the sidelines. So we as voters also are kind of hypocritical. You know, we often will, even though we're more registered independent voters in North Carolina than Democrats or Republicans. In fact, Democrats are in third place now.
Yep.
Um, they're still going to vote for the Democrat. So there are both Democrats and Republicans who feel like they don't have a home now because both parties have been rather hijacked by personalities and policy. Both parties nationally have flip-flop on so many issues because of the jersey they wear.
hmm
I'll give you a trade. The
hmm
Democrats used to be for tariffs 5 years ago and for the last 50 years
Right.
because they wanted to protect the labor unions. The Republicans were free trade, totally against tariffs. In fact, the Freedom Caucus was given tens of millions of dollars by a group called the Club for Growth, including Ted Budd, millions of dollars for the Club for Growth in the Senate race that I lost to. They were a free trade group, and one of their litmus tests is you better not vote for any tariffs. I know because they interviewed me.
hmm
I mean, no tariffs.
Mm-hmm.
But when Trump was for tariffs, they flipped. And Democrats have since flipped and gone, well, we're not for tariffs either. The issue of federal control on elections. The Democrats used to want more federal control on elections a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
The Republicans said, no, that's wrong. State and local government. Now they have flipped, and neither one wants to admit that they flipped. They pretend they didn't happen, and they're doing it because their leaders flipped.
Beyond the hypocrisy on both sides and the
Mhm.
political shape shifting and making fun of the other guy when you've got egg on your face, I'm wondering, does it when we move on and we go into whatever's next, and we don't know what that is, right? But whatever's next, one of the things I wonder is what will we do? Trump will maybe no longer be part of the scene, but there will be people there who, at this particular point in time, are participating in some pretty nasty things and bringing out the worst, whether it's racism, xenophobia, hyper nationalism. I'm a patriot. I love this country, but I think there are strains of nationalism in this country that are uh, demonizing racial minorities, people of all walks of life, and like you said, I know we moved on before. I do think we've been through worse as a country. I mean, heck, we fought a civil war and came back from that more or less intact. But I'm wondering, do you think that there should be any accountability for some of the people who are right now making the most of this opportunity to exploit the worst of our base instincts? I'm thinking of people like Stephen Miller. I'm thinking of people I mean,
Steve Bannon.
yeah, I mean, folks, members of this
Well,
administration.
Steve Bannon just attacked me on Twitter yesterday, so he called me every name in the book on
So
Twitter.
that friendship is alive and
I don't
well.
follow. I went to a principals first. I spoke at a principal first conference, like mainly a group of Republicans who do have issues with how we're dealing with the Republican Party, and there are a lot of Democrats in the room too. And Bannon apparently got wind of it and
Mm.
called me every name in the book. I mean, just rude, and I'm just not going to get into that type of dialogue. I think we'll move on. I
Hmm.
mean, both
But do you think
parties.
there should be any accountability
The Constitution.
Mhm.
Let the Constitution work. They've got a 4-year term. They've got midterms. People react. The people, I'm convinced, when one side goes too far, it will come back. It usually comes back too far. And
Mhm.
most likely the Democrats will go too far in response.
Sure,
They
sure.
always do, and so do the Republicans. And see, this is where I'm a firm believer in that thin piece of paper we call the Constitution. Let the process work. Now, one dilemma we have is the three branches of government.
Mm.
One's been left out for the last 15 years. It's called the legislature in Washington. And I mean, Obama, Trump, Biden, and Trump again have done more executive orders, partly because Congress didn't pass any bills, and partly because the executive branch doesn't want them to pass any bills. They're taking advantage of this concept of executive orders in DC. Is we're run by the courts and by the White House, and it's been this way really since Obama. And so we have a very divided Congress that can't move, that's stalemated. Right now I'm very disappointed. We ought to be passing a new immigration bill right now. Neither party's really presenting any proposals in the past 2 years. I doubt we'll ever, even if the Democrats take control, I doubt they'll propose a new immigration
I
bill.
mean, wasn't there a bipartisan one right before the election?
Yeah, it didn't have the votes.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean,
But
some
Almost had the votes.
bills.
I mean, Trump
yeah,
Trump killed it.
Yeah. But
he
since
wasn't in
then,
power. Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah, so he wasn't in power. Right. Since then, no one's working on here. Immigration's the biggest issue, and we've had some disasters in it and some good
Mhm.
things in it. And yet no one's talking about a new immigration bill
So do you
because it's
think
election time.
I don't disagree on that, right? I mean, I definitely think that's one of the buzzwords everybody tries to stay away from. Do you think people are overreacting right now? We've been talking about it. We've all kind of had the hinting around during this conversation that this isn't your grandpa's Republican Party anymore. Do you think it's an overreaction when people feel like this coming up midterm, this election, like democracy, it's not just left or right or conservative and liberal or Democrat and Republican. It feels like something different, right? Something that's coming from the federal level that we haven't seen. I mean, he's putting 50-foot pictures on his on banners across buildings. It feels very Hungary-ish. Um, are people overreacting? Do you not feel a tension in democracy right now in our republic?
I have felt that tension for a long time, but you got to remember, I was a teenager during 1968, where a riot was a riot.
That's right.
And Robert F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King were assassinated. Although, if Trump had been hit, God knows what had been going on in our country. We might have had some serious issues. Uh, Whether you like Trump or not, if he had been assassinated, what would have our country had done during the campaign? Um, I just hate to think about it.
I'm with you
If,
there.
if we would have been back in 68, I think. Of course, 68, again, is a major part of my life.
Hmm.
That's how old I am. Vietnam War, the civil
Hmm.
rights movement, man landing on the moon, technology changing,
So you
assassination.
you very much view the time we're in right now kind of through the lens of, I mean, I would agree with you. I think there are a lot of parallels between what we're experiencing now and the late
We've had
60s.
We've had
Hmm.
World War II, World War One, a Great Depression. Yeah, this is a tough time.
Hmm.
There's no doubt. But I got in an argument with Bill Kristol about this. I
Mm.
don't think this comes close. Our standard
Hmm.
of living, our world affairs actually is pretty calm in comparison to other times of our world.
Sure.
Even the Ukraine situation is absolutely horrendous.
Hmm.
And frankly, I'm shocked how little the media even covers Ukraine, and we've got 1 million people dying there
When the
in
whole
trench warfare like World War One. Trump gave
Israel,
two
Gaza,
sentences
all of it.
in the State of the Nation speech, and the media didn't even talk about it afterwards. I mean, there is a blind spot there.
Hmm.
So that, to me, the media is focused on the Middle East, but we've got this World War One type of war. It's like 1917 and 18 again, which my grandfather fought in World War One.
Mm.
So that's close to me. Camp
Hmm.
Green in Charlotte, North Carolina, was a house of 25,000 soldiers in World War One, many of who got killed. It
Hmm.
wasn't that long ago, and we've got one going on right now in Europe, and we're not even talking about it. Trump didn't talk about it. The media didn't talk about it. The Democrats didn't talk about it afterwards in their after speech. Um, I'll tell you how I felt about the State of the Union, which scares me. The State of the Union address for the last 15 years has become like a junior high food fight.
Hmm.
And I believe in decorum. And I've given 2 State of the State speeches, a great honor in my life in Raleigh. And my goal that was to show respect to the people I was speaking to, both in that building and the room and the hall, and expect respect back. I saw neither of that occurring the other day. And I said this on CNN the other day. I think, ever since the congressman called Obama a liar, yelled liar
Hmm.
in my modern times, that's when you started seeing things changing, the emotion and decorum out the window. And then Obama, in a future speech, started lecturing the Supreme Court, which presidents never did.
Mm.
And Trump's done that twice now. And then Nancy Pelosi tears up the speech. And then, the other day where people are screaming and yelling and holding up signs, and other
Hmm.
times I hate to tell you, at my age, I'm starting to think life never changes after junior high. And I'm asking, where's the maturity and wisdom?
Do you think that this is driven by, I mean, I think this is the Jeff Jackson thesis, is that, when he was in DC for those 2 years in Congress, he would talk about how when the cameras are not in the room, you might get a very reasonable Matt Gaetz. And as soon as the cameras come in the room, it is now the media Olympics. It is now a race to the bottom to see who can be the most outrageous and the most provocative, because that's earned media. That's how you get free media coverage.
Well, and he didn't say Gates
No,
specifically.
he did not name that. I'm saying you just
He
firebrand
could have
people.
mentioned Gates. Gates was a good example. I'll go with that.
That's the
But
example I'm using.
oh
Yeah,
yeah, I mean AOC and Gates. You ask what bills did they ever pass?
right.
They don't work. And if you talk to, I irritate my Republican friends, but Tom Tillis and I are good friends, even though we fought each other sometimes when he was speaker and I was governor. I had a great deal of respect for him because, first of all, he's smart. And second, he had a consistent philosophy. In fact, I think Trump misunderstands um, Senator Tillis because Tillis has always had an issue about separation of powers, even when he was Speaker of the House. So he was always consistent in his philosophy. That was why it was, even when I had disagreements with Tom, it was never personal.
Mm-hmm.
But usually the people that are on TV a lot aren't doing a lot of work.
Mm.
Through No Labels, I got to know like Senator Cassidy out of Louisiana. He's actually trying to solve Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, which are all underwater. They're basically Ponzi schemes. Everyone in the know, if you read a balance sheet, knows they're in trouble. But anyone running for the Senate, including Watley and Cooper, they're not going to talk about the real financial problems of Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security because you will lose the election. And if you ask them, so what's the solution to Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security under the water, they will repivot to another issue as quick as possible.
Well, what do you mean they're under, like what's happening with it?
That's broke. It's underwater. It's unfunded liabilities by the billions, including here in North Carolina when we expanded Medicaid. Hell, who can yes, we don't have the money to expand it, and it's going to catch up to Governor Stein now. But the people who passed it aren't going to have to worry about the short-term implication. The long-term implications, from a fiscal standpoint, it's going to be like DOT. There's no more money for roads either.
Well, I mean, isn't that just a matter of priorities where we're putting the stuff? Because
No,
we could
no,
fund it.
no.
I mean,
Yeah, you
we
could
keep
fund it.
cutting the taxes and getting it like corporate taxes going
You're
down.
you're not even close to the money needed.
Mm.
I'm telling you, as someone who knows the budget.
Sure. Oh yeah, I mean, I'm not
So
arguing with
then
you,
what,
Governor.
I
but
mean, believe
would it
me.
take? What would it take to
Well, I'll
get
just tell you,
yeah.
our unfunded liabilities for the state pension program for employers,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for state retired employees, is underwater probably about $30 billion
with the B.
with a B. You never heard the governor talk about that last 8 years, or the state legislature with a B.
Yeah.
The state insurance plan for state current employees and retired employees is under the water probably more than that, 40 or 50. That's a total of 60, 70, 80, 90 billion dollars.
Wow.
If that were the private sector, they'd be in jail because you can't fund something that way. Our DOT is in trouble. And of course, one of the reasons the real reason I probably lost my election is the toll lane in Charlotte. I lost 30,000 Republican votes. Roy was smart enough to speak against it the last 3 weeks of the election, sent out a brochure, I'm going to cancel the toll lane and all this crap. Well, he did. In fact, he hired his DOT secretary was the one who did the contract for me. And they've never talked about it since. And so if you want to confront these issues in today's politics, you're not going to get elected.
I wonder though if one of the reasons people aren't confronting these issues, I mean, like, where do you even begin to start? Where do you start with solving a $60 billion problem? Like, I don't even know if I could comprehend what a solution would look like. I mean, you can't raise taxes 500%. That's not reasonable. Like, do you have a sense of what the solution?
Yeah, well, first of all, you admit there's a problem and you
Okay.
talk about it, but that gets you in trouble immediately because that's going to be a 30-second commercial by either the Republicans or the Democrats immediately. Pat McCrory wants to cut your whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go against state employees as a Democrat and say you got a problem with your pension program, that'll be a commercial in the Democratic primary.
Mm-hmm.
Especially teacher unions control the Democratic primary. Just like the NRA has a great deal of influence over the Republican primaries.
So if
I'm just telling you guys, I'm here to call balls and strikes. I ain't
sure.
messing with you.
No, we appreciate it. So if you can't, if we can't even admit the problem, like
right,
the picture you're painting, like, are we
a combination of you're not getting as much services. The employees are probably going to have to contribute more, and you're probably going to have to take care of yourself more and be rewarded for it.
I see what you're saying.
It's a combination of many factors. And we talk about it briefly, but we don't put it in the context of these programs where the numbers don't add up.
Hmm.
I mean, that's why we're trillions of dollars in debt. When you promise free things, you get elected. People like free things. It's a
Mm.
natural dynamic. I like free things. But sooner or later, someone's going to pay for those free things. And
Right.
it's catching up to California right now.
Right.
California's in terrible trouble. New York's going to be in terrible. We're one of the good programs in pension. We're only 40 billion in debt.
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot to take in, and I think it goes back into the priorities, right? So you mentioned California, but California contributes a ton of federal dollars more than they receive when it comes to taxes. And I think, with the Medicaid, I mean, we were saying free things, and I don't think
No,
anybody
listen.
thinks it's
Listen. Let
free.
me talk about myself right now. I'm on Medicare, um, and in my family, because of an accident, we've probably already spent more in 2 years on Medicare than we put in our entire life.
Mm.
That's where the numbers don't add up.
Hmm.
Yeah, we all put in for it for these programs. This will be a future commercial if I ever run for office, which ain't going to happen.
Cat's out the bag now, guys.
Yeah, I believe I spoke this way as governor too, but foolishly. But the numbers just don't add up. And that's true with all of you. You're younger guys putting in for Social Security. Well, the numbers right now is Senator Cassidy from Louisiana is one of the only honest ones. He's doing the numbers and realized by what, 35, we're in big trouble with Social Security. So the question is, will it be around for you guys, even though you're putting in money? It's very similar to our college education. We always think Carolina and Appalachian State and East Carolina. Let me tell you another little secret.
Tell us.
Well, it only costs $25,000 or $28,000 to go to Carolina, right? In-state student. Well, no, it doesn't. The cost of an education at Carolina or State or Eastern North ECU or whatever is just as expensive as Duke. It's just that we're subsidizing more than 50% of the tuition. So that's a priority of ours.
One I like.
But most people don't realize that.
Hmm.
If I talk to most people when I was running for governor, they go, God, isn't it great that our state universities only cost this much? And they think their tuition pays for the entire cost of their education.
Right.
It's not even close.
This is a really well, I'll say at the start of the show, before the show, I wondered if there was a potential for a Pat McCrory U.S. Senate 2028. Or I'm thoroughly convinced that
I tell you what, I'll do it if you pay my alimony payments that I'll have to
okay.
do.
Can't do that one.
I mean,
come on now.
Oh, it's getting sucked out in all the free stuff we're giving people.
This picture you're painting is
by the
pretty
way,
bleak.
I'm still confident in things, but I'm not just blaming the politicians because we're all a part of this.
Well, what are you confident about? Well, because
we all. By the way, why
part of the fabric?
Why do AOC and the Republican guy do all this? Because they get the clicks. Why do we slow down for a wreck? Because we do. It's human nature. And
yeah, I mean,
World News Tonight leads with the old saying, what bleeds? Well, they like the fights because it brings the audiences. And it's a sad commentary. And I'm trying to fight that. I'm trying to go, instead of a State of the Union speech where we're calling each other names and someone's yelling from Minnesota back and forth, I'd love it to be where, maybe the president comes in and just sits down in a chair and has a conversation. Say, these are some of the issues we've got to deal with.
Yeah, I mean,
these are some of the pressure points I have. Let's help each other out and quit this standing up game, sitting down, standing up.
I don't necessarily disagree in that idea of having the president come and let's do a true roundtable. But I think we try sometimes to do the two sidesism with, we said Gates and AOC. Well, AOC hadn't been in a a legislator long enough to pass anything because party hasn't been in power, right? So
He
giving
might
them
be running for president.
maybe, but
Oh, she
to
is.
to this yelling and standing back and forth, like I look at it too, and I was like, man, wouldn't it just be nice like if we that didn't happen? But how many times can you have your boss sit there and call you a low IQ person or just constantly degrade you and expect you to turn the other cheek? Like eventually I'm not the person, right? Because I'm gonna be the person that is gonna
Yeah.
yell back and say stuff because a dog can only get backed in the corner so much. And so I don't think trying to,
I totally agree with you. But, sorry, in my faith, sometimes listen, I've just called by
I hear
Steve
you.
Bannon every name in the book.
Hmm.
And by the way, when I ran against Roy Cooper, his super PACs were called, bigot. And
Hmm.
I I couldn't walk through a Harris Teeter without being F you this and F you that. And that was even after I came home.
Mm.
How
I was
long did that take
physically,
to recover? And I'm not trying to be funny, but like,
no, 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 no. It's not to be funny. I feel sorry. I especially feel sorry for all these spouses in office
mm,
who, as my wife said, I didn't ask for this.
Mm.
I remember she was doing a puppy adoption thing at the governor's mansion.
sweet thing
She
to
never.
do.
Oh yeah, and by the way, she did a lot of Gold Star stuff. But I tell you, Ann, we need the cameras here, and she goes, "No, this
Mm.
isn't about politics. I'm doing this not for your reelection. I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do." So we wouldn't have cameras there.
Mm.
But one time we were adopting all these puppy dogs at puppy mills, which my Republicans wouldn't pass my wife's puppy mill bill. I'm still paying for that 10 years later with my wife
To ban puppy mills, presumably.
to put some minor restrictions
Okay.
on it.
So even
That
to
was
even
it.
begin to regulate.
Yeah,
Wow.
not even close.
Not asking for a lot.
We were wiped out. But we were having a puppy mill, adopting all these dogs at the mansion, both in the Western residence and in Raleigh. And I had all these protesters, HB2, outside the gate, blowing horns and yelling the most vile things you can imagine. And I remember my wife said, "That's it.
Mm.
They're bothering my animals, my dogs
Mm.
now." I mean, so I always feel sorry for the spouses and the
Hmm.
families from both sides. I saw Hillary Clinton testifying today about the Epstein. What the hell are the Republicans bringing in Hillary Clinton
Mm.
in to testify about Epstein? She had nothing to do with that.
Hmm.
I feel for the spouses
Yeah.
uh, of both parties of in the whole thing. So I told Josh's wife, I said, I appreciate what you're doing because they didn't volunteer for this.
Hmm.
Sure.
So we gotta understand there are families involved in these elective offices. So when you see elected officials that you disagree with at the Harris Teeter, don't come up to them and say "F you" 15 times like I've
Yeah.
had. Hey, say thank you for your public service. Even say
That's
I may
exactly
disagree
right.
with you, but I appreciate you.
Well, I mean, I hear you loud and clear, but I think it comes a time. I don't think there needs to be the FUs too much, but if you feel like your
No,
rights are
it
being
shouldn't. It shouldn't
trampled
be it at
on,
all. You'd be above that. You'd be above it. And
yeah, I mean, I think there's some systematic
I was. Hey,
issues, but
listen.
yeah,
I've had Trump. Trump called me a loser in front of 2,000 people. And I had a choice. I could have walked up on stage but
yeah, but
short term that would have been good, but long term,
Mm.
yeah, but being called a loser compared to somebody stripping, your rights and health care and stuff away is makes, or not giving you the same
yeah, but
rights.
but wait a minute. You can't like if the Supreme Court makes a decision and you disagree with it, you follow the Constitution. You can protest, but you don't threaten the Supreme Court justices.
Sure.
You
Yeah.
don't go to their house and protest. Sorry. I strongly disagree with people protesting at politicians' homes.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah,
not fair to their kids,
no
man.
doubt.
And they did that. The left did that, and the right's done some horrendous things. So January 6th was horrendous,
Mm.
inexcusable. Riots that I had to deal with as governor here in Charlotte. I had to call the National Guard,
I,
and You know?
I'm sorry, I have a quick question. You mentioned January 6th, and I'm curious because you seem to have a lot of really interesting friendships and relationships still with Republicans and Democrats and folks in
Sure.
between. Um, where within the Republican Party, the folks that you're talking with, how do people
Mm,
remember January 6th? And not just the event itself in 2021, but one of the things that I'm still amazed, and I think this is an indictment of our attention span and the media environment, that you know, Trump pardoned people who assaulted police officers. He did not back the blue in terms of the January 6th.
There's no excuse. There's no excuse for some of the pardons that Trump gave.
So my
There's no
question is,
excuse for some of the pardons that Biden gave, by the way, either.
my question is like,
Um,
what are the conversations that you're hearing happening? Are there any conversations around January 6th and
no,
the
I
soul
think
searching and
the problem in my party and frankly the Democratic Party, even with no labels, we saw you're purged if you go against the leaders.
sure.
You're purged. You're canceled. And I've been canceled in this. I was canceled in the state because of the gender thing for
hmm
about 2, 3 years. I mean, just he must be a bigot and so forth. And it was a disagreement over a very debatable issue. Fine.
mm
This purging that we have because of people's political beliefs has got to end.
hmm
And but people are using it their political advantage. You know, one person's cancellation is another person's fighting the man.
Right. I mean, we're
You
seeing
know,
that now with there was the woke left, now there's the woke right.
right?
I mean,
Yeah, a lot
it's
of hypocrites on both
yeah.
sides there.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think, we would sit here and you're having this conversation with us, which is that I'm very grateful for. I think we would both agree that 90% of things we all agree on.
hmm
And it's turned into a very big culture war, hypersensitive single issues that turn the FUs into Harris Teeters. Would you agree that that is
Yeah, and I think the other thing is we've done is we've labeled and branded people with terms that we refuse to define.
hmm.
Even the terms conservative and liberal, I don't know if they exist anymore. I
okay?
don't know what progressive. I'm a political science. I don't know what progressive means anymore, or liberal, or I've been called a rhino and a right wing extremist all in the same day. I hear terms like you're anti-LGBTQ plus, and we don't even define what that is.
hmm
Hey,
No one
but you knew all the way to the plus.
Yeah.
a plus plus. You might
The plus
leave out
plus.
a
I think there's an
plus, and,
IA
and
as
you'll be
well. That's
canceled. No, it's ridiculous.
But
It's all
I agree with you. Daniel and I's had that conversation
rhino. When
now.
I'm debating a fellow Republican,
hmm
when they're losing the debate, they go, "You're just a rhino," and I go, "Oh, it's you might as well be saying F you."
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
know, I always say when someone resorts to cussing, my parents used to say that if you cuss, you've run out of an argument. Now, if you call someone an extremist, I
hmm
was called an extremist, and I'm the farthest thing from extreme. When I was running against Roy and Pat McCrory, the commercials were saying he's an extremist,
Well,
and I don't.
what would you label
Wow,
an extremist then? What is an extreme right wing and a left wing bird?
I go back. I read history.
Mm.
Stalin, Hitler, Mussolini, they're extremists beyond our wildest dreams. People who want to destroy or what believe in anarchy
hmm
What
are
side of
extremists.
extreme are they on though? Because I've heard the
It
argument of
doesn't
like,
matter. Anarchists are all the same. Their goal is to destroy institutions. And I've seen
fair.
extremists on the left and right that I've had to deal with, where their goal is to shut down government institutions, private sector institutions, religious institutions, and both the left and the right have tried to do that. January 6th, they
mm
were anarchists. They tried to shut down a government. Uh, some of the riots I had to deal with, they attacked City Hall and police headquarters.
mm
And by the way, I disagree with Kamala Harris in donating money to bail him out. What the hell was that all about?
hmm
I disagree with Donald Trump pardoning them, inexcusable pardoning people who attack police. I'm not afraid to call out the jerseys, regardless if it's my
hmm
jersey or the other. But the extremists, the real extremists, are those who want to who are anarchists and try to pretend they're not. And we got to call out the anarchist and not give them excuses. And I've had to deal with them directly, and I've had some threaten me and my family, and it's inexcusable. It's inexcusable. So I think we use the extremist word extremely too much.
Well, I guess it's about time to land the conversation. And I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to chat with us. When Quinn and I started the Hometown Holler, we were at my kitchen table. We were just two dudes running our mouths into microphones and
don't pull that Sam Irvin junk on me now. You know,
just a poor country lawyer.
Sam Irvin's great straight. I'm just a poor country lawyer from Morganton, North Carolina. And,
we were just two country podcasters.
He was a Harvard guy, Harvard Law School, and brilliant, by the way.
Well, we really were just two dudes. I mean, he's on the Elon Town Council. I was a North Carolina eighth grade history teacher, and
by the way, I was an education major in history.
Right on.
My goal was to be a teacher. But I'll end by saying this to you: we've spent a lot of time talking about D.C. I just did a TV show on I have a TV show on PBS called Unspun, but I just did a concluding remark because you ran for local office, man. The world doesn't exist in D.C.
No, it's local, man. I'm
coming up on my school board, county commission, city council has more influence over your life. And I'm so tired of young people coming up to me and go, I want to run for elective office. I go, great, what? U.S. Congress. And I go, are you freaking kidding me? You're just interested in ego. And by the way, a lot of our U.S. congressmen out of North Carolina have no local experience. They went straight to Congress because of whatever reason. And we need people like you in both parties to start running for school board. And
it's
probably
funny.
The hardest job in politics.
We were talking about right before this, right? Extremism, left and right. And what are these labels? What's a progressive? What's a liberal? And we have a newspaper here in Alamance. It's probably more of a conservative newspaper. Sure. I've got to know the editor. I enjoy him. We'll have lunch together. And my town council is pretty liberal. And we're up there as last year. And he came to our meeting. And afterwards, him and I were hanging out speaking. And he was like, you know what, Quinn? You sounded like the most conservative one up there. I was like, shut your mouth right now. You don't say that real loud. So I use that though all to say, I don't know what it is because I hear a lot of my friends now, and I agree with you, that people don't have a home. And so they want to be registered, unaffiliated, or independent, or they call themselves a centrist. And I have no idea what a centrist is because I believe in some social issues, and I have I believe in having some type of governmental safety net of sorts for some things. Doesn't mean that I'm just not fiscally responsible and I just want to spend willy-nilly. And so I think there's a lot of gray area that the extremes put into play.
You know what I think the safest thing to do for a guy like you, even though you're liberals, the Dickens, but that's okay.
Hey, I mean, it's all right.
You're an American. You're a patriot. You know, you love our country. You love Alamance County, which is growing leaps and bounds.
It is.
Probably as fast as any county. When I was governor, we were recruiting a lot of people to Alamance. But, you know, take each issue on its own merit, especially at the local level. Most issues at the local level aren't Republican or Democrat.
No, that pothole doesn't have one.
And yet we get into our we go to our little party meetings where we see, just like I used to go to local Republican parties and I'd see the same 15 people.
Hey, we've got 50, okay?
Alamance Dims is
you're talking about repeat. You're talking about spouses and kids now. I know the game, believe me.
Oh, I'm not doubting you, Governor. But yeah, as Daniel said, it's been a pleasure.
I commend you, and I commend you as a history teacher too. My goal is to still be a teacher. I tried to get into universities. The universities canceled me though. I couldn't get in.
Well, we very much hope that this was worth your time and that you will encourage other folks to hop on the Holler. We want to make this a place where North Carolinians come together to explore important issues, to call balls and strikes. and
So you
not
can disagree.
show people that you can disagree,
Absolutely.
still crack
I
a
love
cheer
it.
wine and have a liver mush sandwich at the end of the day.
Well, I hope you don't lose too many viewers because you had Beyond, but if so,
So
what the
be it
heck?
then, right? Yeah.
So be it.
So be it. Well, hopefully we can reach back out to you and maybe have you on again.
Absolutely, guys. Take care of my friends in Burlington and Graham and uh, Hogs.
Yeah,
Let's see,
Hall River up here.
Frogsboro out there, near
Roseboro.
Roxboro. I know all the towns in North Carolina. It's a beautiful area and great. Hurdle Mills,
Oh
not
my
far from
gosh.
Hurdle
Yeah, yeah,
Mills.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You got the geography down pat.
Yeah, yeah. God bless you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Governor.
you,
Have a
Pat.
good evening.
Take care.